Hey, good morning, everybody. And we are live with Gary Steensgard, who is an HR manager with Ball Metal Pack. Thanks for joining us today, Gary.
Hey, good morning, Michael. How are you?
I am doing fine. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good.
It's kind of funny. Most of you don't realize we talked for like 15 minutes before this, and having to start over is always interesting. Okay, so Gary, I guess let's talk. First of all, what is Ball Metal Pack?
Ball Metal Pack, we specialize in steel packaging. So you need to think of everything from a Walmart whipped cream can to a WD-40 can to Rust-Oleum and to the ever popular Lysol with the pandemic. We've been in continuous operation since the beginning of March. And by that, I mean around the clock and through the holidays because the demand is so high. But we take steel, raw steel, and make cans out of it that hit the consumer shelves. That's what we do.
Wow, and I loved seeing those pictures. You know, I've told you that before. All the different images with the machines and people working them and taking care of everything. So that's
it's a super unique world. I cannot speak strongly enough about our employees. We've been branded by the CDC as critical infrastructure essential employees because we make, PPE in the way of disinfectant cans, foodstuffs as well. Even baby formula, we make cans for baby formula, go figure. And not one employee has come to me in HR. We often get these complaints. Hey, Gary, why are we out in a pandemic? They know why. Yeah. And they're very, very proud of what they do. And I just couldn't be more proud of the team here. They're fantastic.
No, I mean, when you think of frontline workers, how many lives are ultimately saved by those cans of Lysol?
It's a big deal.
Houses, and a lot of people don't think about that. So, okay, so you are an HR manager.
Yes.
What was your path? I mean, so you were a first sergeant in the Army, right? So what was your path from there to now? Because you didn't just go right into this job, right?
Oh, no, not at all. I started out as a grunt in the Army. I was a 13 Foxtrot, which is a forward observer. Ended up injuring my back, but the Army gave me the opportunity to go into a functional area, and I went into recruiting. I did relatively well in recruiting. They offered me the opportunity to convert to 79 Romeo. I was already a relatively advanced rank. I was an E7 by then. So I made first sergeant at E8 pretty quick. Went through 2 companies, but running those companies, I learned so much more beyond recruiting. Circulating to different recruiting stations over a dispersed geographical area, learning diverse teams, because in the grunt, we're different, but we're all kind of same. But in recruiting, you get people from all walks of life. Mm-hmm. The only thing really bonding us together is that green uniform. Mm-hmm. And I really learned that that's what really kind of motivated me, getting to know these people, getting to know what they needed. What could I do on the ground to make a really difficult job recruiting during a true front war, mind you? What can I do to remove obstacles and make their job better?
Right.
And I figured HR is the way to go. I married that with, I've always been fascinated by manufacturing. My father worked for McDonnell Douglas, and he was a former Army Air Corps / Air Force pilot. And as a little itty bitty kid, I got to go to the factory and see them actually make F-15s. I got to see them make, just these super advanced fighter jets. And it was amazing to me. And watching the technicians do it, and I was like, Gary, you like manufacturing, you like leading people and improving their employee experience. HR is the way to go. Mm-hmm. And you want to do it in manufacturing. So I was fortunate enough to get to Meritor, which makes truck axles. And I was an HR supervisor. Now, I went from HR regional manager equivalent in the Army to just a little HR supervisor position at a little remote facility.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Okay.
You say you went from regional HR manager equivalent to HR supervisor.
Yes.
Now, translate this. I want you to go back in time. Okay. Did First Sergeant Gary Steensgard have the experience at the time to be a regional HR manager for a large organization?
No, I did not.
Okay, I just want to be careful about that because I know you say you went from regional HR manager. I don't want people to just say, I ran a company, I'm in charge. like it's not a direct translation. So you went from an Army first sergeant that had an interest in HR to an HR supervisor position. Okay.
And that was really important because that's where I learned, because I didn't do FMLA in the Army. I didn't do audit.
FMLA?
You know, we did, there's so many differences. So that HR supervisor position at Meritor really allowed me to cut my teeth, learn the vernacular and learn the rhythm of manufacturing. What are peak seasons? What is a peak season? How do I staff for that? What obstacles do my employees have? When is open enrollment? When are merit raises done, etc.? It was all brand new.
All right, I got a question. You're in acronym mode,
right?
So for a lot of people out there, FMLA,
Family Medical Leave Act. It's
okay.
legal. It's federal legislation that allows people to legally miss work for approved conditions, either for themselves or for a family member.
Open season.
Open season is when open enrollment is when every year you have to sign up for your benefits. Okay. So even as a retiree with TRICARE, you have to do that now. You had to actually go back and make sure that they were taking the $25 out if you're on TRICARE Select, like I am. But that happens annually, where the employee has to go in and select what medical benefit they want, what dental benefit they want, all the way down through 401k and even pet insurance. There's all sorts of benefits out there for the employee, depending on the organization.
And they have to choose during a certain time frame every year, unless there's a qualifying act, right?
Absolutely. And a qualifying life event could be everything from the birth of a child to a spouse losing their coverage at their job. There's a whole wide array of qualifying life events that can happen.
So how much time does open enrollment take out of your like literally what's investment? Explain to us what open enrollment does to your work life.
When open enrollment hits, it really depends on the structure of your organization. Some organizations are robust and big enough that they have a service support center to where, and this sounds relatively cold, but the employee can actually reach out via telephone or WebEx or email and say, this is what I want to do. But guess what, Michael? I have employees here that have been here for 40 years. They're technophobes, meaning they don't want to get on any of this. This right now is completely foreign to them.
Yeah.
So that's where I come in. Hey, come here. Let me help you get enrolled. And ultimately, my job is to help them to get past that phobia of technology. But if you're not in a robust organization, you're doing it.
Yeah.
So here, sit down with me and let's pick your benefits. Well, what does this benefit mean? What does this benefit mean? And you become a benefits master really, really quick. I didn't know what a deductible was in the Army. I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, for auto insurance, I did. But how does that apply to, the different kind of medical coverage that you have for your employee? Do they have ongoing medical issues? It's going to help them reach their deductible quicker. Do they need a low cost, high deductible plan because they never get sick? And you have to know these things as an HR manager, even as a generalist, to help your employees get to where they need to be benefits wise.
I'll tell you, I don't think we talk about open enrollment and benefits enough when we're transitioning. I've had multiple people call me and say, oh my God, Mike, I got a $200 paycheck, or I've got a $400 paycheck. And they make a lot more than that. They're like, what happened? I'm like, what did you enroll for? They're like, well, everything. I'm like, wow, if you enroll for max 401k, then that comes out of your check. If you max out your tax deductions for childcare, but it's, $5,000 for over the course of the year, and you sign up for that in October, well, they're going to take that out before the end of December because it's a calendar year. If you take the highest, or most comprehensive healthcare, dental, vision, everything. And so to be able to explain all that is really incredible. So, all right. So I want to get to what your day is now, but if you don't mind, when you went from first sergeant to HR supervisor, what were the things you had to learn? Yeah, I know.
We just hit one was benefits. I was fortunate at being in recruiting command, so I was able to network before I transitioned out of the Army with a local SHRM group outside of Beaufort, Georgia. And I was able to pick brains. Okay, what am I going to know? And they just started throwing things at me, and I wrote some of them down. Payroll, benefits. DFAS handles all the payroll for the military, but I didn't know what double time was. I didn't know what shift premium was. I didn't know what bonus pays looked like. I didn't know how they were taxed, other than one time I did get a bonus in the Army. It got taxed really, really hard. But I needed to learn all that. You don't touch those things in the Army. Very seldom. There's probably positions, I'm sure, in the military where you have more exposure to DoD civilian employees, and then you have some more exposure to that. That's something you got to keep in your head as you're thinking about going into HR. But I needed to learn all those things. I needed to learn really words. What's the difference between an inspection and an audit? And who audits you when? And how critical is it to get no findings on an audit? And if you do get a finding on an audit, what does it do to your business? If I get an I-9 audit by the Department of Labor, and an I-9, to explain that to everybody, is the E-Verify system to make sure that somebody you've hired is legally able to be hired in the United States. Well, if I have an employee here and we don't have the E-Verify or I-9 on that employee, guess what? They could literally shut our business down. And that could be literally millions of dollars a day. That's how important I needed to learn. It wasn't as simple as not having a drip pan under a Humvee in the motor pool. You could literally shut down a business. So it was a different focus and a whole lot of learning.
No, that's fantastic. And employment law and labor law and everything else. I mean, there's just so much more in the HR field. So what was transferable?
Let's see. Definitely performance evaluations. I think the military, and the only exposure I really have to it is in the Army. So excuse me, everybody, if I talk from an Army point of view, but the performance evaluation process is really, really good in the Army. It's very timed out. Hey, you're late. What are you doing? So when we got on, when I got into it in the real world, I was already in tune. Okay, here's what the timelines look like. What training do my supervisors need to give really good performance evaluations? Army really sets you up well for that. I think the Army set me up well for circulation, which you call battlefield circulation. Actually, employee engagement. Embracing the suck in the military allows you to learn your people, get to know your people. Everybody's motivated by different things. It's no different in the real world. I was able to really kind of bring that ability to the HR position. Hey, Jim on line 3 really likes hunting. It's the beginning of November. I can walk by him on the line and say, Jim, why aren't you chasing Bambi today? I don't hunt, but me taking an interest in him creates that vibe between HR and employee.
Yeah.
Michael, I will tell you, the first time I came in on third shift, because we are continuous operation, they were like, HR's here. Who's getting fired? And I was shocked. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm just here to see how you guys are doing. And they just looked at me like I had a horn growing out of my forehead, because they didn't understand that I come from a different mindset. Most HR, or a lot of HR, is very transactional. Hiring, terminations, open enrollment, like we've previously mentioned, payroll, filing FMLA paperwork, like we've previously mentioned. Those are very transactional. But HR needs to be and must be very, very strategic and tactical in nature as far as rolling out and meeting your people, getting to know what they need. And so I was able to translate that as well from the military.
And we talked about this. We talked about this earlier. I kind of remember my first company that I worked at, that the HR director basically was only concerned about benefits, compliance, and open enrollment. I mean, benefits, compliance, and labor law, and which are important. Yeah. But the problem was there was no employee engagement. Morale was not there. There was no workforce planning. It was just disconnected. And you said transactional. It was just about paperwork at that point. And there was issues that resulted from that. And actually, that's what led to my opportunity. So there's a good thing there to come in. So I did not see the same thing at EY. EY, they were very engaged. They had the SSC, videos on everything. I mean, you had the machine there, and they were very responsive as well. So I've seen both sides of the coin. Now, do you recommend when people are transitioning and going into HR jobs that they speak to those positives you were mentioning? Evaluations, training, employee engagement, battlefield circulation, wanting to actually be involved. Do you find that as a value add in the interview process?
I do. But we have this constant debate on LinkedIn all the time: technical skills versus soft skills, right? I think you have to be able to bring both into a situation. And let's use the interview process for an example. If you're answering a question with the STAR method, situation, task, result, situation, task, action, result, you have to be able to bring in those skills that you had to be able to show what's going to make you a more dynamic person for this position. You have to be able to do that. The certifications and the degrees, and if you were in human resources command in whatever branch you were, you're going to have some technical stuff. But you've got to bring those larger picture HR issues to companies, because more robust companies are leaning on their HR managers to become real business partners. HR has always complained, we want a seat at the table. Well, what did you do when you got the seat at the table?
Yeah.
What were your actions? How were you a value add to that business function? And so, yes, the soft skills and the less than measurable technical skills are important, and you have to weave those into your experience, whether you're doing an informational interview or whether you're doing a formal interview.
Right. And I think it depends on the size of the organization, the type of role, being able to focus on the appropriate accomplishments, things that you've done in the HR arena. We had a couple questions on degrees and certificates. I think that when you get a certificate, it actually validates knowledge, right? Knowledge and some experience, but primarily knowledge. So at least if you have the experience, like if you can translate your military experience and then you have that SHRM, SCP or the SPHR certificate, there's a little bit more of a comfort level that you're going to come in and understand industry. Am I correct in that?
Yes, you are. And here's why. I always explain HR to people that are seeking HR as a potential career path is a 50-50 split of taking care of the employee and taking care of the company.
Yeah.
The certification allows you to demonstrate that from a basic standpoint, you will be able to take care of the company from a legal, ethical, and moral perspective. The employee stuff is more ingrained in programs and systems and processes that you have in the company or organization that you just mentioned. Some are more robust than others, and we can use the Amazon. Amazon has a really good layered HR team, but they're huge.
Right.
The company that I came to before here was very, very small. So I was the HR layer. So I was doing generalist work. I was doing HR manager work. I was implementing strategic, initiatives from corporate at my level. So the answer is always is a degree. Here's a general rule of thumb. HR degrees deal with HR theory and larger scope things. HR certifications deal with things that are going to impact your workforce every day.
Ooh, I like that.
So
that's fantastic.
So
yeah. So all right. So now I think we could do an hour, but I can only do about 30 minutes today. I'm going to try to keep these relevant.
Okay.
What is your day like? I mean, it took us 20 minutes to get to it, but what do you do at Ball Metal Pack?
Okay, so I wear two hats. I am the HR and safety manager. Each one of them is a full-time job. So really what I do, I begin every day. I come in, I'm usually in by 5:45 or 6 a.m. Why? That allows me to touch the back end of the evening shift. If they have HR needs, I'm here. And that's not just for the people, my technicians on the floor, it's for the leadership off that shift as well. But then it depends. Payroll's Monday. Monday morning, unless the world is on fire, don't mess with me and my team, because the most basic thing we do is make sure that our employees are compensated correctly. That's the most basic thing. and it flows from my office. People aren't at Ball Metal Pack because they need a hobby. They're here because they need to pay bills.
Mm-hmm.
So we cannot screw that up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it really kind of it varies.
What is Payroll Monday? Is that like the whole morning? You're going over timesheets?
Generally speaking, by the time we run it, we get it certified by our servicing corporate partners in payroll. Then we audit it. And I usually do somewhere between a 10 to 15% audit just to make sure that it's paying correctly. It's generally 1 o'clock in the afternoon already.
Okay.
And that's not if people issues didn't happen, because people issues, depending on the severity of them, can interrupt everything. If somebody comes in with a harassment claim, whatever I got going on, I'm passing on to somebody on my team because I've got to start investigating. I got to start finding out. It really kind of depends.
Yep. Doors always open. That's the benefit of that first starting experience. All right. So Payroll Mondays. What else?
Payroll Mondays. Tuesdays can be anything from HRIS system updates. And HRIS is Human Resources Information Systems. Basically, your employee file. I think they called it Smith's file or whatever. It's really where all your information is. And as people go up in position or go back in position, their pay rates change. As they get benefits changes, as their position changes, this stuff has to be maintained all the time. Mm-hmm. So make sure that we're on point with those all the time.
So that's basically the file maintenance of everything related to employment. The I-9s through making sure everything is I think the Army's now doing IPSA-A. So everything finance, employment related, making sure it's all in there, it's correct.
I will tell you, in 2015, when I retired from the Army, there were 5 complete systems in Human Resources Command, and very few of them talk to each other. And I think they've ironed that out. But we'll do that. It could be on Tuesday through Thursday, I'm conducting interviews, whether it's for non-exempt or exempt positions.
All right, explain that.
What's that?
Non-exempt or exempt?
Non-exempt is generally, they are subject to the Fair Labor Standards Act, meaning they get paid hourly. And then once they get to 40 hours, they get paid time and a half. Some companies have double time standards where they work on a holiday, 7th day in a row. Every organization is different. But I can be conducting interviews. I can be on LinkedIn, actually pinging out and sending emails. Hey, I see that you're a supervisor at XYZ company in Knoxville, and I really like their profile. How do you feel about how is work going for you? Because that's how I'm going to kick the door open to try to drum up interest to come here. Because we need strong leaders.
Are you hiring right now?
Always.
For HR personnel?
For HR, no.
I had to ask because you're about to get pinged by a lot of people.
No, but I tell you, I cannot find somebody to come here to be a quality engineer to save my life. And literally, you can drive from our plant here and be in Dollywood in 15 minutes. So there's just so much to do here. It's fantastic.
So what's a quality engineer? Real quick.
Quality engineer makes sure that all the systems on the production floor are turning out a 100 spec qualified product to the customer.
And do you need to be an actual technician to do that, or is that more of like an IG?
You need to understand quality check systems.
Yep.
And once you understand quality check systems, you'll learn how to make a can.
Yeah.
It's incredibly difficult, believe it or not. If you would have told me 2 years ago it was this hard to make a can, I would have laughed at you. It's really difficult, but you'll learn it.
Yeah.
But it's more about putting systems in place to make sure that our technicians are doing the right thing and catching errors before they get to the field, because you don't want a $2 million recall.
Yep.
That's not a good thing.
And that falls under your safety hat, though, right?
It does. Well,
so
quality is its own realm.
Yeah. All right. So you've got Payroll Mondays.
Yes.
Tuesday through Thursdays is interviews, hiring, HRIS,
conflict resolution.
That's employee engagement, right? Somebody has an issue with somebody else, they come to you.
Yep. It could be doing auditing, doing a lot of safety auditing, or going through safety fixes. Our teams do safety audits on a daily basis, whether they're behavioral-based safety observations or whether they're pure safety audits. The system that does that sends me alerts when they find something that's not right.
Right.
something that I need to go investigate. That's part of my purview as well. And I have to determine what are the risk hazards here and how quickly do we need to jump on it.
Yeah.
I can be doing an accident investigation. I can be doing a near miss investigation. The thing I love about HR is no day is the same.
Sounds like you're a first sergeant with just some more industry knowledge in a lot of ways.
It really is. It really is.
So how big is your team and how big is your facility from a people standpoint?
Our facility right now, from a hourly employee standpoint, is roughly 200 people. And our facility is a production floor with multiple different production lines for different specifications, and it's really 2 big warehouses. From a salary standpoint, we're at about 40 people, give or take. In addition, we have contractors coming and going all the time. We have temporary employees that do, have to be very careful how you say this, but unskilled labor, sorting operations, quality check operations. Right now, I have 30 of them on staff, so I'm in charge of them as well, as far as from a human capital standpoint.
So is that really about 70 people, or? The reason I pictured it to be so much bigger.
It's really not. It's not a huge, from a person team. It's not, because a lot of the machinery does the work for them.
Yeah,
however,
that makes sense.
That said, I'll give you an example. If we're making a can for Abbott Laboratories, very popular in the news right now because they once came out with a rapid test, or at least the initial rapid test for COVID-19. But we make baby formula cans for them. It's 2 line mechanics, 2 body maker operators, and 1 packaging operator to run that line. And we have multiple lines going on at any given time in the facility. So, and we do that over 2 shifts. Each shift runs 12 hours, 4 days on, 4 days off.
Wow.
So they have a 48-hour check, and then they decompress for 4 days, and then they come back. That's if there's not overtime. So it can get pretty crazy.
I don't think we talked about Fridays. Is Fridays just your off day? Because you're working, it sounds like you're working like 10, 12-hour days.
No, I'm here usually 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. on a daily, sometimes longer.
11, 12-hour days.
Because life's going to be easier after the Army, right?
So is that 5 days a week?
No, Friday is generally easier. Usually the plant manager will come in my office sometime around 2 o'clock and look at his watch and say, what are you doing here? Go home. But we take exactly.
Yeah, you're not getting double time.
Salary employee gets paid the same whether you're here or not.
Yeah.
But when you have deadlines and you have things to answer to, you have to make sure that they're done. Not meeting a deadline is not acceptable. It has to happen. And if you're not going to meet it, you need to communicate consistently with people above and around you to make sure that you are taking corrective actions immediately to get where you need to be.
And we got somebody that says they want to work in quality, or they're asking if you're looking for quality. I think it was quality engineer, Quentin Taylor Garcia. So if you're interested, Quentin, I would say reach out directly to Gary.
100%, Quentin. Please drop me a PM.
So Gary, I know people are going to hate to see us cut this short. There's so much more we could talk about. So advice to transitioning service members, military spouses, people in a career transition that want to move into HR. What's your 1 minute of advice?
1 minute of advice. Wherever you're at, there's a SHRM, there's a local SHRM chapter, Society of Human Resources members. You need to get in touch with them, become a member. Usually membership's $70 ish, but you need to go, especially when the pandemic's over and they have lunches. You normally get a free meal out of it, but B, you get to rub elbows with people, because HR in manufacturing is not the same as HR in finance. It's not the same as HR in the tourism or service industry. We have a tendency to get siloed, so to speak. I would not be competitive to be a regional human resources manager for a hospital system, because I haven't been immersed in that environment in my career. If you develop the network, you can. That's a totally different 3-hour seminar. But get to know human resources professionals outside of the military bubble. Second, make sure that you're doing what you can to get your certifications completed, because I think certifications nowadays carry more weight than a degree. I really do. Again, that depends on the organization.
Mm.
So, and read job descriptions. Sounds funny, but read the job description. How much of that job description have you really done, or can you really do?
Mm-hmm.
Measurably to positively impact the P&L for the organization you want to go work for.
Profit and loss.
So you have got to do that. If you don't do that, you think you're qualified. You know in your heart you're qualified, but are you really?
Does the hiring manager believe you're qualified? Is what's important, not what you believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can be the most positive person in the world and do all the positive affirmations you want. You have to demonstrate that to the decision maker. And the decision maker in that case is the hiring manager, of course. Mm-hmm. So those are the things I think really to do, and get to know HR people on LinkedIn.
Yep.
People, as you see, we generally like to talk. We love our profession because our profession gets bashed a lot because everybody goes to HR for something just that. But we're here to help people. And helping people is getting to know them and reach out to us, whether it's an email, whether it's an informational interview via phone or Skype or whatever. Reach out to us because we can give you our 2 cents. Just remember, my way may not be your way, but there's a way. You just need to find it.
And I guess my last question is, if anybody tuned in has questions or wants to see if they can get a few minutes of your time, if they're a transitioning service member, military spouse, recent veteran, are you open to them connecting with you on LinkedIn?
120%.
I saw a bunch of people that have already followed up on that with you and have spoken with you, and they're not surprised at the wealth of information you've brought today. So, Gary, thank you for everything. And I know any company that has you is lucky to have you on their team. And I'm hopeful this has been informative to a lot of transitioning service members to realize that they can have an impact, but they have to do the work to build the relationships and to gain the industry experience to be able to make that translation. So thanks again, Gary. Stay safe and reach out if you need anything.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye.